I work really hard to make videos for you all, so please subscribe to my channel and like this video. Also, make sure to tell me your name and where you are watching this story from. Let's start the story. It's hard to explain how a story like mine even begins. Most people expect some kind of dramatic opening line, where I declare that my life changed forever on a single date, or that everything comes down to one cursed moment. But the truth, the real truth, is that it starts like a whisper. Something small, nothing you'd notice if you didn't know what to look for. That's how horror works. It doesn't crash into your world. It trickles in, patient, until it fills every space. And for me, all of it started with a game. Or maybe it started earlier, with Hollow Creek. See, I grew up in Oregon, but my uncle lived in upstate New York, in a small town outside of Albany, Hollow Creek. He always described it as a middle-of-nowhere town where people vanish more often than the mail gets delivered. He said it jokingly, but when I first visited him in my late teens, I knew exactly what he meant. The place had this thick feeling, like the trees were hiding secrets, or the houses were hollow shells. And the creek itself? It wasn't much more than a trickle, winding down from the hills into dark woods. But the water was black as tar. Locals said it was just iron content in the soil, but I never saw a single fish in it. I wouldn't understand until later how that place and the game cartridge would twist together into something that almost broke me. But I should start where it began. September 2012. It was one of those overcast afternoons, a dull gray sky over Hollow Creek that made everything look washed out. My uncle had gone to the hardware store, and I wandered around downtown, which was basically 3 streets and a diner. That's when I found the thrift shop. The bell above the door barely made a sound when I walked in. It was more like a coughing than a chime. The woman working behind the counter didn't even look up. I wandered the clutter. Dusty VHS tapes, shelves of porcelain dolls with cracked cheeks, boxes of old games stacked in milk crates. It looked exactly like the kind of place where kids made urban legend discoveries. And then I saw it. An old Nintendo 64 cartridge. No sticker. Just black plastic. I don't know why I picked it up. Maybe because it looked out of place, next to stacks of Madden and Mario Party. Or maybe because even back then I had this morbid attraction to things that didn't belong. The guy working there sold it to me for $1. He even smirked when he handed me the bag and said, "That one always comes back." I laughed it off, but for some reason his words stayed with me. Back at my uncle's house, I dusted off his old N64. It was shoved in a closet, tangled with cords that looked like veins. The cartridge slid in tight. When I powered it on, the screen flickered a few times. At first, it looked like a regular Zelda title screen. Except not. Instead of the bright fairy tale sky, it was static gray. Instead of Link riding across Hyrule Field, there was a silhouette standing by water. The creek, maybe. No music. Just faint rushing water. I should have stopped then. But I pressed start. There were 3 save slots. The first one already had a file saved. The name was Eli. That's my name. Every hair on my arm stood up. I told myself it was just coincidence. There are tons of Elis out there. But when I opened the file, the character wasn't Link. It was me. Or at least, it looked like me. Same dark hair, same flannel shirt I was wearing that day. The character's eyes were wide, hollow black, and the background wasn't Hyrule. It was Hollow Creek. What unnerved me most wasn't that the game was creepy. It was how quiet it was. No combat music, no NPC chatter, just the sound of water. The only goal seemed to be walking. My character would trudge down winding paths past trees taller than the render distance should allow, and always toward the creek. At first I thought maybe it was some kind of hack someone had made, a homebrew horror ROM, but the town, it wasn't random. It was accurate. Down to the diner my uncle always took me to, down to the rusted water tower on the edge of the woods. The game world was Hollow Creek, perfectly replicated. My real, physical town. I felt like the cartridge knew me. And the further I walked my avatar toward that black creek, the louder the water grew. Until at one point, it wasn't coming from the TV anymore. It was coming from outside. I paused the game. The sound cut out. But from outside my window, through the trees behind my uncle's house, I heard it. That creek, rushing, except it wasn't supposed to sound that way. Hollow Creek was a barely moving trickle, not some roaring current. Something had changed. My heart raced, and I shut the console off, but the screen didn't immediately go black. It hung there, showing a single line of text. You belong here.
I didn't play again for a few days. I told myself it was a glitch, a weird bootleg, nothing more. But that week in Hollow Creek, a local boy named Adam went missing. They found his bike at the edge of the creek. I didn't tell anyone about the game, but when I went back to it, the second save file wasn't blank anymore. It now read, Adam. I opened it, and there he was. Not Adam in a cartoony style, Adam in detail. Same hair, same baseball cap he always wore. His avatar stood at the edge of the creek in-game. No matter what buttons I pressed, he wouldn't move. He just stared into the water. And in the faintest sound design trick I've ever encountered, I swear I heard whispering, a child's voice caught under the water. That was just the start. Every time someone disappeared in town, and it kept happening, the game updated. A new file, a new avatar. And one by one, they'd all be standing by the creek, staring at their reflection. When I checked the files again on October 3rd, there was another new slot. It read, Uncle James. I froze, controller slipping out of my sweaty hands, because that very morning, my uncle hadn't come home from work. They'd already filed a missing person report, and yet there he was, locked in the game, facing the water. Except his avatar turned, very slowly, and he looked directly at me through the screen. I don't know how I lasted that long. Why didn't I smash that cartridge with a hammer, burn it? Maybe because some part of me thought I could save them. So I went deeper, past the creek. The maps that unfolded weren't Hollow Creek anymore, at least not physically, but they were shaped by memory. My high school gym, the thrift store, the cemetery where my parents were buried. And every path led back to water, to that endless pixelated black surface. One night, I pushed my avatar into the creek. The screen went dark, and for a few terrifying seconds, I swear I heard my own breathing echoed back. Then the text appeared. Trade accepted. You're next. Tonight, I turned the console back on. I don't know why. Habit, curiosity, obsession. There are 4 save files now. The 4th one doesn't say Eli anymore. It says you. And when I hover over it, I swear I see myself. Not a cartoon render, not a pixel approximation. Me, sitting in that very room. The background isn't the game world, it's my room right now with this laptop screen glowing in the reflection. The water rushing louder, louder. It's not from outside anymore. It's in the walls. It's in my veins. If whoever reads this finds that cartridge, don't play it. Because this town, this cursed town of Hollow Creek, doesn't just take people physically, it digitizes them. It keeps them. And the longer I hear the creek calling, the more I know I'm next. The water wants me. Maybe it's already got me. Maybe it's writing this for me. I didn't sleep that night. Or maybe I did, and I just didn't wake up right. All I know is that when I finally looked away from the glowing screen, it was morning. The cartridge was still in the console, but the TV had gone black. No, you belong here, no whispers, just silence, too much silence. The first thing that felt wrong was the air. Hollow Creek had always smelled like rain-soaked dirt, pine trees, and gasoline from the old diner. But that morning when I stepped outside, the town smelled like the creek. That iron metallic scent, like blood drowned in water. And every single person I passed in town, they were staring, not directly at me, past me, over my shoulder, like they were seeing something following me that I couldn't. I didn't remember driving home, which is strange. I lived 2 hours away. All I remember is stepping through my front door and realizing there were gaps in my memory, like whole hours had been erased. The N64 was still with me, sitting in my backpack, heavier than it should have been. I swore to myself I wouldn't touch it again, that I'd leave it in the attic, forget it ever existed. But deep down, I knew the game wasn't done. Because every night after that, the sound of the creek followed me. Not faint anymore, not whisper quiet. It was in the pipes beneath my bathroom sink. It was bubbling in the coffee maker when I brewed a cup. It dripped from the ceiling, even though my roof didn't leak. And always, I could hear voices under the water, calling my name. By the end of the first week back home, another file appeared. I hadn't touched the console, swear on my life. But when I passed my attic, I saw a faint glow seeping through the cracks of the old door. By then I didn't need to check. It was the game, always the game. Inside, the TV was already on, flickering, waiting. And the cartridge? It wasn't inside the console anymore. It sat in the middle of the floor, wet, as if I dragged it out of the creek itself. I told myself not to look, that curiosity was the trap. But when I glanced at the save files, my stomach dropped. There weren't 4 files anymore. There were 5. And the new one didn't have a name. It only said, tomorrow.
I left the house the next morning, certain that tomorrow meant something bad. And I was right. Everywhere I went that day, people were waiting. The faces weren't strangers anymore. They were familiar. My uncle, the missing kids, Adam with his baseball cap. They weren't alive, and yet they weren't dead. They just stood in crowds, always near water, by fire hydrants, near sewers, puddles, and parking lots. And when they looked at me, they didn't blink. I think the whole town is gone now. Or maybe I have slipped into whatever version of Hollow Creek the cartridge was making. Do you know how terrifying it is to not trust anyone's humanity anymore? I keep asking myself, am I still in Oregon, or did the cartridge pull me into someplace else? When morning came again, I checked the game. The tomorrow file had changed. It now said, Eli, final. And when I hovered over it, my body froze. Because the avatar wasn't just me anymore. It was me, sitting at my desk, but not moving right, like a puppet being dragged by invisible strings. My head turned too slow, my mouth open too wide. And behind that version of me, reflected in the TV screen, I saw dozens of figures, all gray, all waterlogged, watching me. And then text appeared. It's ready. So are you. That's when it began happening outside the game. Water stains appeared on my bedroom walls, spreading fast like rot. The black residue of Hollow Creek itself pushing through drywall. The smell suffocating. Voices chanting under the gurgle. Not language, just a rush of sound pulling itself downward, like drowning reversed. And then, I swear on everything holy, the water moved upward, running against gravity, crawling toward the ceiling. I didn't know what to do. Smashing the cartridge crossed my mind again, but the fear that it might only make it worse kept me frozen. Instead, I tried recording it. My phone was in my shaking hands as I filmed the walls crawling with black water veins. But when I checked the footage, the video showed nothing, just a perfectly clean wall. Except for a split second, it cut to gameplay footage of my avatar drowning. The game doesn't need the console anymore. It's inside me now. The last 2 nights I've woken up choking in water, not just spit, not a nightmare, actual black water running out of my lungs, staining my sheets, leaving iron rings on my skin. And every time I vomited it up, voices came with it. Echoes, laughter, screams, something clawing its way out of me. But I'm starting to understand. The cartridge wasn't just a cursed game. It was a doorway, a dam holding something back. And by playing it, by opening those files, I didn't just see victims. I became a vessel. Hollow Creek doesn't drown people. It collects them. In water, in games, in me.
I went to the bathroom as the voices got louder. The sink basin was already full of black water. For the first time, I leaned over it, not resisting, but searching. And there it was, my own reflection, staring back but wrong. Hollow eyes, mouth stretched, skin grayed like drowned flesh. The reflection smiled first. Then text scrolled across the mirror's surface, like someone had etched it in liquid. We don't drown, we echo. And my reflection pulled me forward. I can't explain well what happened next. Writers describe being pulled into a screen or falling into another world. But this wasn't digital. It wasn't physical. It was both. I stumbled, and suddenly Hollow Creek was around me, perfect in its shape, silent in its curse. The creek stretched endlessly now, no longer a trickle but an ocean of black, swallowing the sky. And along the banks, every missing person stood, still, watching, waiting. Adam, Uncle James, dozens of familiar neighbors I'd seen on missing posters, even strangers. All staring at me, all smiling with those stretched, broken faces. Behind them, the silhouettes of the others. Millions, gray, faceless shapes. People not from Hollow Creek, victims from everywhere the game had spread. The game avatar materialized in front of me, my puppet self, jerky and corrupted. It leaned forward, extending its hand like it wanted me to follow. Above it, floating letters appeared, flickering red. Choose. There were only two options, stay or echo. I didn't know the difference, didn't understand what either choice meant, but somehow I felt it didn't matter, because either way, Hollow Creek grows. Either way, I wasn't leaving. The last thing I felt was water rising, not outside me anymore, but inside me, filling every vein, every thought, every word. Now I understand fully what Hollow Creek is. It's not a town, not a game, not just some haunted legend. It's a system, a parasite. It collects memories, faces, stories. It spreads by being told. My file is already written, probably yours too by the time you finish this last line. So if tonight the sound of rushing water creeps beneath your walls, don't look for a leak. It isn't plumbing. It's the creek, and it has found you.